So a quick disclaimer, we had some technical difficulties while recording the video. On my end, the internet was quite unstable, so you will hear some echo in the background. But one of the reasons I didn't trash the video is because the conversation was so good and I just couldn't think of removing it. So I slip in and out of the video if you're watching it. However, I'm also going to include the details to reaching out to Natasha for the free gift that she offers. We couldn't finish recording the video because the recording was interrupted. We record remotely, so it was interrupted. So I'll leave the details. You can reach out to her via LinkedIn and send her the word executive, and she is offering all the listeners a free ebook where she walks you through decision making as an executive and an entrepreneur and CEO. So on this note, let's jump into the recordings.
At the same time, meeting your objectives, because you've got to also produce. Because not only the values of you and your company, but what about the clients? You also got to find what a client's needs are and meet their needs to sell. So you also have to tap into the values of the client. So it's such an important aspect. And so moving from a solopreneur to a bigger entrepreneurial kind of company requires a lot of planning, emotional skills. Actually, as an executive, you do more emotional, or let's say more people skills, human skills. That's more almost important than the tactical part.
This is Biz with Tanya, brought to you by Wiz Digital Academy, a show for business athletes and online bosses who are ready to take up space. Hello, business athlete. Guess who's back? She's back. She's back. I know a lot of you guys have spoken about me not being around. I've gotten angry enough, child. Angry enough. Like, where are the episodes? I'm sorry. There will be an episode coming up explaining this, what happened. I'm human. I was overwhelmed and I needed a break. But today I am bringing you an important conversation. I am talking about leadership. I don't know, in the past few weeks, I've been speaking about leadership, about building businesses with structures, exit planning. If you follow me on social media, you would have seen these conversations happen. But I don't think we speak a lot about these things, especially when people are freelancers. They are building businesses. You are a creator and you build a business by accident, because I'm a creator at the end of the day. I'm a writer. So I was a creator who started building a business by accident. So I know those feelings, and I think I've shared about it, about hiring a leadership coach, because I was like, you see this thing called building businesses, structures, nobody told me about it. I was thinking about that creating a business was me sipping pina colada on the beach. I didn't think about hiring, that hiring was this hard. And this is, when I speak to other entrepreneurs, it's one of the things that I struggle with is often client acquisition and talent acquisition, because as a leader, you need to attract, retain, align people into your business, and all the things are skills that you have to learn. And today I've got the beautiful Natasha here with me, and she's going to introduce herself. Natasha is an executive leadership coach, and she works with executives in businesses, but as well with solopreneurs that are transitioning the business from being solopreneurs into a business with structure, where they have to hire, where they have to lead and delegate, and she helps them build that self-leadership and that self-trust so that they can be able to lead their teams. Natasha, welcome to Biz Talk.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you for having me. Really, to the beautiful Tanya, you see? Right.
So I'm gonna allow Natasha to quickly introduce herself before we get into this conversation, because if you are an entrepreneur, this is one conversation we are going to want to listen to and pay attention to. It's especially if you are transitioning from the early, your first 10K and you're trying to build a team, delegate, and not have to do everything on your own. This is the conversation that you need to listen to. But before that, let's ask the beautiful Natasha to introduce herself. Like, how did you end up becoming a coach and working with entrepreneurs?
Okay, so thank you, Tanya. Well, first of all, I didn't start off my career as being a coach. So it was a process. And I actually moved from South Africa to Europe, to Italy, and I went into finance. And I did finance for 5 years. Then I went to the fashion business in Milan and worked there for 5 years. And then we opened our hotel in France, where I ran the beach and the restaurant. Now, why am I saying this? Because I also, in the meantime, had 3 children. And so I'm quite aged, let's put it that way. Now, I have experience. And after the children, it was a time where I felt, how can I use my working background, put it together to contribute and serve? Actually, I started having that need to give something back. And somehow it just led me into coaching, into studying, and to understand the mind and the body, the emotions, and how this affects our leadership. And that's how I became a coach, by studying, of course, going through all the processes. There's a lot of technical skills one has to also acquire. And there we go.
True, because I've seen that you are quite well versed in a number of coaching practices. Those that I know that I personally went through with a previous coach of mine, because before we started taping, we had a conversation about how I saw similarities when I worked with a mindset coach initially to get over childhood trauma. Because I worked with a therapist and I also worked with a coach alongside to kind of help me build the confidence to show my face on social media, because that was before initially something that I was terrified of, like having to be me. I was comfortable being behind the scene, writing for clients and being the ghostwriter for programs and everything. I was comfortable. And the day that the client told me that, girl, you know that you know a lot, like instead of writing for as clients, and obviously what I'm saying is I'm shooting myself in the foot, but you do far better putting your face on it. That was one of the most terrifying conversations I had in my life, because that was requiring me to occupy space, and I was never comfortable with that. So eventually, when I realized that I wasn't comfortable occupying space, I remember I got an opportunity for She Leads Africa, and I applied for the opportunity. Hey, they said, cool, we want to have you. Then I ghosted, and there was 3 opportunities like that, because I was like, no, they shouldn't have said yes. I'm the wrong person for this. So that led me to working with a mindset coach. Then later on also working with a leadership coach. And because I had tried to hire and I failed. In leading, I had failed, and I noticed that I was very good at doing, because at the time I was working with a business coach, I was very good at doing exactly what I was being told, but I wasn't comfortable doing what I thought was best. So that's when that led me to working with an executive and leadership coach. And the reason I say this now, and this is to give the listeners an understanding of the state of mind I was in when I worked with a leadership coach, is because I am seeing this in a lot of entrepreneurs, especially those that come from being creators, those like me that are creators, and we building businesses by mistake, or building businesses by default of what we do, and the thing is happening and it feels like you are caught in a windmill of the situation. So for what I've seen from past clients, they walk into digitally building their businesses. Eventually, they've hit the 5K months, 10K months. And now they're like, okay, this is a fluke. My clients are going to discover that I'm a fraud. Because these are conversations I've had with clients. My clients are going to find that I'm a fraud. Like, I'm still scared of making money and all these things. I don't think I can maintain this. And if you had to have a conversation, because I'm sure one of them could be listening to this conversation today, what would you tell them?
Okay, so yes, I've actually noted down a few things, and what I've noticed is in all these points that you've mentioned is a lot about, you said, I failed, I feared, I wasn't comfortable, they're going to think I'm a fraud. So what happens, and this is where the mind is so important, is what we think. So you land up actually creating your own auto-sabotage. In other words, do you understand what
We will be back shortly with your episode. Right now, let's hear a quick word from today's episode sponsor.
Are you looking for a simple way to start making sales? Then you'll want to check out our coaching program, Easy Sales Blueprint. Finally, an easy way to sell your program or service. Discover the simple steps to creating a lucrative coaching or consulting business. The Easy Sales Blueprint gives you a step-by-step method to easily make more sales without spending all day on social media, cold outreach, and hitting the door to try a good old-fashioned door-to-door sales system. Apply today by heading to tiny.cc/getmoresales to find out how we can help you achieve online sales success.
I'm saying? The thoughts.
I know, like when you say that, I'm like, yes, I did that.
Yes, you did that. And because this is the process of how the mind works. First is the thought, and then it could also be with the past, the emotion that comes up of fear. So since you already said you did have quite a traumatic, and you worked on it, but the fear can sometimes still be there. It comes in the body and gives a thought, and then you say, oh no, I can't do that. They're going to think I'm a fraud, whatever. And so you fall into that loop of negativity. It's it's a game of, I can do it. And then the other side that's saying, no, you can't. Everyone's going to see that I'm weak at this. I'm bad. Fear of rejection, fear of failure. And so we have to learn how to deal with these things. And we can. It is something that, as I've seen from Tanya, you definitely have overcome this. So you cannot lead or do a business if the mindset is not right. It's hard, very, very hard. Because we project. We project what we feel. You don't know that people can see your frustration, your fear. It's called perception is projection. So if I have fear, they feel it, your team feels it. And then how are you going to build a team if they say, well, she's scared, but so what's happening for me? How will the future be for me? So they need a leader that is strong, that can get them through. So managing your state is one of the most important aspects of a leader. And you wouldn't think that, or of a team, or of a solopreneur also.
Wow. This is such an important fact that you just shared. Fear. And it's often self-projection. And that's something that we never actually think about, how we self-project, and we become the prophet of our dooms. Because if you keep saying that, then you're projecting that, and then it's going to reflect back on you, and what you thought, you've created that reality for yourself. So if you're listening to this is a point that you want to jolt down. What are you scared of? What are you projecting? What are the fears that you are creating that are becoming self-fulfilling doom prophecies for yourself, for your business, and for your vision. Like, that's one of the key points you want to jolt down.
Excellent.
And
Yes.
if you are going to need to pause the episode to write that down, do that. As we now continue, you've laid businesses. I know I studied economics. After a few months as a stint as an independent consultant for an M&A business, I was like, this is not for me. So the fact that you even survived it for 5 years, I have to applaud you. That's a
I don't know how I did it. Ah.
That's cutthroat. So can you tell us, what did you learn from working in the financial sector?
Oh, I suffered. I suffered 1 year of trading in Italy. Coming from South Africa, I had to trade nearly, the lire was not €1, it wasn't euros. They had those 6 zeros. So 1 million was 10 miliardi, was 10 with another extra 3 zeros. And I tell you, but 1 year of real nerves, suffering, I couldn't handle it. And so after the 1 year of trading, really trading, I said, please put me into sales. And I got out of trading. So I was very insecure, I can't do it. All the same things as you went through. But in sales, I got much better. In fact, I was selling South African emerging market bonds. It was great. I was so happy because I was contributing in some way, to South Africa. But the fear was there. And I think only now that I started my studies in coaching, which was 6 years ago, I really started to develop the confidence. I mean, I'm 53 and I started at like 46. I don't know why they do not teach these things at school, why we never hear about it, why we don't build our self-esteem, our confidence, and it's just. So now I'm another person. Now I can show myself, I can go, I have my the borders, border, I know exactly what I want, and if I don't want to do it, I don't do it. Whereas before I could never say no, people pleaser, yes, yes, yes. So, I learned. And there we go. I've also give myself compassion. I may have failed, and we have to remember, failure is learning. It's learning. So
for anybody that is not familiar, go ahead.
No, not familiar.
I was going to say for anybody that is not familiar, because Natasha just brushed through it, like I was selling emerging markets bonds, bros. That was multi-millions she was selling in terms of deals. So this woman knows a thing or two about sales, because she just browsed about it. I was selling emerging market bonds and I was contributing. She just browsed through that she was selling bonds that are usually contributing millions into a country. So just wanted to point that out today. And boundaries. I love the fact that you spoke about boundaries. We often are not good at boundaries. This month, for example, I fired a client, a couple of clients actually. The business let go of a couple of clients because of not respecting of boundaries. And it's something that I've learned over the years to stay true to my boundaries. And this applies to every aspect of your life, whether you're dating, whether you are in business, everything. You need to be able to establish boundaries and stay firm and stand firm with your boundaries. And one of my boundaries has been that my team members will be respected. My team members will feel comfortable working with clients, that clients will respect our boundaries as a business and everything. And for a moment there was a client who was quite a big venture capital firm in America, and I was like, wow, we need to go above and beyond. But every time they would you will get on a call and you felt disrespected. And I was like, is this the kind of leader that I want to be? Because what am I teaching my team? What am I teaching myself as an individual if I allow myself to be disrespected like that? And I had to eventually cut ties with this client. Even though it's a big business, it's a great business, I loved working on the concept of the go-to-market of the particular firm we were working with. But establishing those boundaries, standing firm, and telling them that if this continues, we will no longer work together, and eventually doing that was exhilarating.
Brilliant.
Because Tanya 5 years ago would never have done that. So, as a business owner, if you're listening to this, you need to have boundaries. Boundaries for clients, relationship boundaries with your team, as well as boundaries with yourself. What are those boundaries that you are allowing even in your personal life that people keep refuting and you keep allowing it? Because as a leader, you have to learn to stand by those boundaries. And that was not the fun part, because sometimes I still feel scared. Sometimes I still feel like the little girl. For those that have never heard my story, we grew up as a single mom, and obviously there is a lot of trauma that comes with that. The people pleasing and wanting to make everybody happy except for yourself. And those are things that I've learned to work on. So sometimes those childhood traumas, if you don't deal with them, and I've been privileged to work with multiple coaches, therapy. For me, therapy was okay, but eventually I wanted to stop living in the past. I wanted to find a way tools to deal with it, to live in the future. I don't know, anybody that might have had that might understand what I'm trying to say, but those tools were things that I got through working with coaches, both my leadership coach as well as my mindset coach. So some conversation with yourself there as well. What are the traumas that you've had, that you've carried from your childhood that is spilling into your business? You are going to have that conversation with yourself. Or find somebody like Natasha, because not only does she work with executive coach, I also see that she works with people on a personal level. So find somebody, because I think that's great. And I found you a few years ago, maybe that I would have saved a couple of $1,000.
Yes, absolutely. So, you would.
So tell me, what is it that people that are wanting to do the transition from being a solopreneur to actually becoming a CEO, because that's the conversation we are here to talk about. What are the things that they have to work on?
Okay, so actually I'll follow on from where you left off, let's put it that way. It is so important to deal with what are your values, because what are your values? Is it freedom? Is it security? Is it respect? Because those are how your boundaries are formed. Okay, and this also becomes the value and the culture of your company, as we saw with Tanya. So in my coaching, I have actually a tool that's called, in Italiano, gerarchic value formation. And I promise you that if I do it to you, you will list your values, but then when I start to compare them, you will see that probably the one that you listed third or fourth is actually first, because it depends on the amount of time you spend on each value. So people are not sure of their values. So to move into a business, you've got to be really clear. Where do I stand? What are my beliefs and values for this company? What is my identity? Who am I? Who is Tanya when she starts her business? How do I want to appear? Which is exactly the thought process that Tanya, well, unfortunately, you had to fire the client after a while, But yes, because he went against your values and against your alignment with your identity and the one even higher, which is your purpose, your spirituality in the sense, not religion, but my contribution to a good world, to something that's bigger than me. So when you start with as a solopreneur, it's not easy. You're alone. Actually, then you start to say, well, I need help here, so let me just ask this person for a little while, and then we'll see. And then all of a sudden, you're getting bigger and bigger, and you haven't really put in that structure. And I don't believe that a solopreneur is the right word. It's a myth, because we cannot work alone in a way. It's almost impossible. Do you see where the solopreneur becomes the morepreneur with more people? The solopreneur is actually a myth, because look at Tanya now. Tanya, you have more than just one person on your team. You need to delegate. Otherwise, you're going to have burnout. So almost it's this transition to the solopreneur is going to happen. So yes, we can work from our house. We don't need to buy the mortar and the bricks and all that, but maybe we're going to give out our marketing. What we need is a strategy from the beginning. So the mistake many do is start already, don't have a fixed plan. Again, in coaching, one of the hardest things to complete is from here to there. How are you going to get there? Tell me the steps. Plan it. Let's do it. And they can't answer. They don't know exactly. Of course, it's difficult. How can we put step by step to get there? So maybe we require hiring a person for there, or hiring outsourcing. Okay, I'll outsource that. So the transition is the fact that you're moving from a small to a big. And you as a leader, with your values, staying aligned, but at the same time meeting your objectives, because you've got to also produce. Because not only the values of you and your company, but what about the clients? You also got to find what a client's needs are and meet their needs to sell. So you also have to tap into the values of the client. So it's such an important aspect. And so moving from a solopreneur to a bigger entrepreneurial kind of company requires a lot of planning, emotional skills. Actually, as an executive, you do more emotional, or let's say more people skills, human skills. That's more almost important than the tactical part. The technical part, you can hire people to do it. But you are the one who has to build that team. You have to make them trust you. They have to, because you want to give them the chance to do the work and to become leaders in their own right. Because if you develop and help, there we go. Carry on.
I love this, because there's a post on your LinkedIn about, I have to transition into this, about micromanaging. And I think that often happens when a lot of smaller businesses want to transition in becoming bigger, and they bring on people on their team, and then they start micromanaging the people, or they delegate and then end up doing the work on their own. So control freaks. So if somebody like that is listening to this, because I know that now, like on our onboarding, now we've included that we don't want to be micromanaged to clients. You are hiring us, we are not the enemy, and it's literally written on the on the proposal. We are not your enemy, we are on your team, we are on the same team, we want your the best for your future, so you don't need to micromanage us. So how do you, for somebody listening, I know that it takes a lot of, it's not going to happen in one conversation, and for anybody listening to this, that it actually is a way that they've been micromanaging the team, has not been able to delegate properly, are giving direction instead of leading, and struggling to deal with that. I would suggest check out Natasha. I'll probably write out a LinkedIn profile on the screen if you're watching, and it will also be in the description box. Check. She shares some amazing posts on this. You might want to check it out, as well as reach out to her team. I believe she has a free resource she'll be sharing with us a little bit later that you can ask her, and the team will handle that for you. But for people that are micromanagers, delegating and then want to take over the task, what do you tell them? It's because these people are battling to let the team support them.
The reason that someone micromanages and what is because they fear not having control. Why? Because they fear being judged when it doesn't work out. So they are worried that if they let the other person do it, that person may make a mistake and then it will reflect on them. So the manager, if the manager has this fear, I always ask my clients, so who do you think is going to judge you if you micromanage or you delegate and it goes wrong? And he says, well, the CEO. And if it's the CEO who has that problem, I say to them, so who's going to judge you? It's the stakeholders. So that's why they have fear, the fear of being judged. And again, it's the very top that has to bring the culture of don't worry. Okay, delegate. We understand the guy may make a mistake. We understand, but we learn from our mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, you don't learn. You might as well just, I don't know, lie in your bed all day. We got to make mistakes. So you got to allow the person under you to make the mistake and then show him and say, well, next time, what do you think you can do better? How can you improve there? What can we do together? And there the coach comes in. Not me, but the coach in the leader comes in. Understand?
Oh, God. Yeah. Great. So we're going to go towards the wrap up because I know that it's almost at the 30-minute mark. So Natasha, can you tell us how, because we've had such an insightful conversation, and I know there are people here that will be like, okay, I'm loving this, but 30 minutes, 35 minutes is not enough to get this. I promise you.
I understand.
To work with a leadership, you need a few weeks. If you're a business, you're an entrepreneur, you're already making some money into your business. It's, for me, leadership coaching, executive coaching is the one investment. I think I've been preaching it since last year.
Yes.
That is the one investment I will never, ever regret making. Because that is the one investment that is allowing me to create my business, the dream business that I wanted. It has allowed me to look at the business that I had started creating and was like, no, I don't enjoy this. This, I was creating it because this is what my business coach at the time told me. This is not what I want. This is not the structure that I want. This is the structure that I want. This is what I want. I don't want a lifestyle business. I want an executable business. And that was after working with a leadership coach, because the reality of working with a leadership coach, if you are used to cooking cutter strategies that do this, you are in for a rude awakening, because they will force you to confront yourself.
Exactly.
A lot of those conversations were uncomfortable as hell. And I was like, bruv, I'm here trying to learn how to build a business. You asking me all these questions about my life, about my childhood. ¿Qué pasa? But I promise you, if you are committed to the process, it's the most beautiful journey. And I recommend this to founders that I work with. I recommend this to small solopreneurs. Get an executive coach. Get a leadership coach. Because they are your thinking partner. And at the time when I'm working with them, because we would sit in the room and he will ask me, so what do you think is your vision? What is your vision? And you go on and it's like, okay, but why? And but why actually led me down a self-discovery. Because a lot of times we don't ask ourselves why. Whatever we first think, we think that is the truth, and sometimes it's not the truth. It's sometimes a projection of a subconsciousness, something that I had to learn working with a leadership coach. So, highly recommended. So a quick one, because I know that you work with a few different people. So I just want to give you the opportunity to quickly tell us the different type of people that you work with. And then also we will share a bit later about some of your other resources.
Yes. Well, sometimes the person who comes to me is in management and wants to move to the executive level. How can they build that up and build their executive presence? Other times it's already the executive who's looking how to improve his communication skills, his emotional quotient, which is important, as they say, like with Daniel Goleman. And it could be anyone who's just trying to have that support. Why? Also because you save time having a coach. You can reflect and think of new processes. I work with people who are feeling stuck and stagnant in their career and unsure how to move forward, or those that are struggling